What's the deal with ham and Canadian bacon? Okay, let's get into it. You're at the store looking at all the delicious meats. You see ham, and right next to it, you see Canadian bacon. They both come from a pig, right? So they must be pretty much the same thing. But wait a minute, they look different, they have different prices. It can be super confusing, even for people who cook all the time. Many people think they are the same, or that Canadian bacon is just a fancy kind of ham. But that's not the whole story, not by a long shot. They are actually two very different cuts of meat, and knowing the difference can make your meals even yummier. The confusion is totally understandable. They both have that savory, porky flavor we all love. They often show up in similar dishes like breakfast sandwiches or on top of a pizza. But their journey from the farm to your plate is not the same at all. One is lean and comes from the back, while the other is from the leg and can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Thinking about them as cousins rather than twins is a good way to start. It helps you appreciate what makes each one special and how to use them to make your cooking really sing. So let's break it down, nice and easy. This isn't just about being a food expert. Knowing the real difference helps you become a smarter shopper and a better cook. When a recipe calls for one, you'll know exactly why it's the best choice. You will understand why Canadian bacon is perfect for something like Eggs Benedict with its neat round shape and gentle flavor. And you'll see why a big juicy ham is the star of the show for a holiday dinner. It's all about picking the right ingredient for the job. Getting this basic knowledge down is a total game changer in the kitchen, I promise you. So, let's clear up all the mystery once and for all. We are going to dive into what makes Canadian bacon, and what makes ham ham. It's simpler than you think. We will look at exactly where they come from on the pig. We will explore how they are prepared, which gives them their unique tastes and textures. And we will talk about the best ways to cook with them. By the end of this, you'll be a pro. You'll walk into the grocery store with confidence, ready to grab exactly what you need for your next amazing meal. Let's go! So where do these meats actually come from? Let's start with Canadian bacon. This popular breakfast meat comes from the back of the pig. It is cut from the pork loin, which is a very lean and tender muscle that runs along the spine. Because this muscle doesn't do a lot of heavy work, the meat is not very fatty. This is why Canadian bacon has that clean, meaty texture without a lot of marbling. It's the same cut of meat that is used to make delicious pork roast and pork chops. So when you are eating Canadian bacon, you are basically eating a very thin, cured slice of pork loin roast. How cool is that? Now let's move on to ham. Ham is a completely different story. It always comes from the hind leg of the pig. Think of the big muscular back leg. This part of the animal is much larger and does a lot more work, which means the meat has a different structure. The leg cut gives us those classic big holiday hams that you roast in the oven. Because the leg is so large, ham can be sold in many different ways. You can get it bone-in for extra flavor or boneless for easier carving. It can be sold as a whole roast, a half roast, thick steaks, or sliced thin for sandwiches. The appearance of these two meats tells you a lot about their origins. Canadian bacon is almost always sold in perfectly round or oval slices. This uniform shape comes from the natural shape of the pork loin it's cut from. It's neat and tidy, with just a tiny bit of fat around the edge, if any at all. It's consistent and easy to work with, which is why it fits so perfectly on an English muffin. You always know what you're getting with each slice, which makes it super reliable for cooking and portioning out for your family breakfast. Ham, on the other hand, is the opposite of uniform. Since it's carved from a large, irregularly shaped leg, the slices can look very different. You might get pieces from the center of the leg that are lean, or you might get pieces from other parts that have more fat and connective tissue. This variety is part of what makes ham so interesting. You can choose the exact cut you want based on how you plan to cook it or how much fat you prefer. So the lean loin gives us tidy Canadian bacon, and the big hind leg gives us versatile ham. The way these meats are prepared is another huge difference, and it's what gives them their signature flavors. Canadian bacon is typically cured in a wet brine. This means it soaks in a mixture of water, salt, and often some sugar or maple syrup for sweetness. This process makes the meat incredibly juicy and tender. After brining, it's usually smoked lightly to add a little more flavor, and then it's fully cooked before it's packaged. This is why you can technically eat it right out of the package, though it tastes much better when you heat it up to get a nice little sear on it. The flavor of Canadian bacon is gentle and mild. It tastes more like a juicy, slightly salty pork roast than what people think of as bacon. The saltiness is there, but it's not overpowering. The sweetness from the brine, if sugar or maple was used, is very subtle and just balances everything out. Because it's so lean, the texture is meaty and satisfying, almost like a thin slice of steak. This mild flavor profile makes it a great team player in many dishes. It adds a nice porky taste without stealing the spotlight from other ingredients like eggs or cheese. Ham preparation is much more varied and can be a lot more complex. Hams can be wet cured, just like Canadian bacon, and these are often called city hams. They are also brined, smoked, and sold fully cooked. But ham can also be dry cured. This is a much older tradition where the leg is packed in salt and spices and left to age for months or even years. This process draws out moisture and concentrates the flavor, creating hams like prosciutto or serrano. These dry cured hams have a much more intense, salty, and complex flavor. Because of these different methods, the taste and texture of ham can be all over the map. A simple boiled city ham will be moist, tender, and mildly salty, very similar in some ways to Canadian bacon, but a country ham that has been dry cured and smoked will be much saltier, drier, and have a very bold, smoky flavor. And an aged prosciutto will have a silky texture and a deeply savory, nutty flavor that is nothing like the others. So when someone says ham, they could be talking about a wide world of different tastes, from simple and sweet to intensely complex. When it's time to cook, you'll find that Canadian bacon is super easy and quick to prepare. Since it's already fully cooked, all you really need to do is heat it through. Most people pan fry it for just a minute or two on each side. This gives the edges a little bit of a crispy texture and brings out its delicious sweet and salty flavor. It's most famous for being the star of Eggs Benedict, where it's layered on an English muffin with a poached egg and hollandaise sauce. It's also fantastic in breakfast sandwiches, diced up in omelets, or layered on a Hawaiian pizza instead of ham. In other parts of the world, what Americans call Canadian bacon goes by different names. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, it's simply called back bacon. You might also hear it referred to as rashers. It's a staple of a full English or Irish breakfast, served alongside eggs, sausages, and beans. So if you're ever traveling and want that familiar lean bacon, look for back bacon on the menu. It shows just how popular this specific cut of pork is. It's loved for its lean texture and meaty bite, whether you call it Canadian bacon or something else entirely. It's recognized globally as a breakfast favorite. Ham offers a much broader range of culinary uses because of its different forms. A large bone-in ham is perfect as the centerpiece for a holiday meal, often glazed with pineapple or brown sugar and baked for hours. Ham steaks can be pan-fried or grilled for a quick and hearty dinner. Diced ham is wonderful in soups like split pea soup or mixed into pasta dishes, quiches, and casseroles. And of course, thinly sliced deli ham is a classic for sandwiches. The versatility of ham means it can be used for a simple lunch or a giant feast. In the end, it's clear that while they both come from the same animal, Canadian bacon and ham are definitely not the same thing. Canadian bacon is the lean, round slice of pork loin, wet cured for a mild and juicy flavor. It's your go-to for a quick breakfast. Ham is from the much larger hind leg, and it can be wet cured or dry cured, resulting in a huge variety of flavors, textures, and forms. It can be a simple sandwich slice or an extravagant roast. Now you know the difference, so you can choose the perfect pork for whatever delicious meal you're whipping up next. Yummo!